think if my grandmother could see me now, she would be really confused. Hello and welcome to the best approximation of 40s pin curls set that I've ever managed to pull off. A huge thank you to American Duchess for the pin curl tutorial video that she recently put up, which I followed to great effect. And I can wear one of my vintage hats, and it actually looks right with the proper hair. So now that I'm finally living my 40s hair dreams, I decided I might as well live my 40s wardrobe dreams. Starting with these three fabrics that I collected years ago and just never got around to doing anything with them. So I think I'm going to do the skirt and the pants out of the brown, the jacket and skirt out of the plaid, and at least the pants out of the teal. And maybe if I can squeak it out, the jacket too. First I matched up the plaid so I could cut it accurately on the fold. I use my dining room table for cutting out large projects like this, and as you can see, even then I can't fit the whole thing in one go. I realized I didn't quite have enough fabric to cut out the skirt on the straight of grain, so I would have to refold the fabric and come back to it. Usually I like to have everything pinned in place before I start cutting it, but that's not always an option. I hope I'm not the only one who enjoys watching time-lapse footage of people cutting out and sewing garments, otherwise this video will be really boring. Now to cut the skirt on the cross grain. I determined that the plaid was not significantly different enough in each direction that it would be noticeable to have the skirt and jacket cut differently. I would not do this on a single garment, but for two separate garments it would be okay, as long as all the pieces are cut the same way within each garment itself. I was careful to match up the notches on the seam of the skirt with the corresponding spot on the plaid, so I can do nice pattern matching. I did not bother to do this with the jacket because it would just drive me crazy, and probably waste fabric. I had enough fabric for the skirt that I could cut more carefully though. I also cut pockets for the skirt, even though the pattern does not call for them, but I must have pockets. So it's evening of day one. My hair has held up really well. Curls are still going strong. Mostly. So it's time to now re-pin this for bed. Yeah, so I got the jacket and skirt cut from the plaid fabric, and tomorrow I'm going to cut out the rest. My goal, I don't think I've stated this yet, my goal for this video diary is to have at least one wearable, finished outfit before I have to reset my pin curls so that I can wear it and get pictures. So, wish me luck. Welcome back. It is day 2 of this challenge I have set for myself, my 40s wardrobe challenge. I decided to fully embrace the 40s today, and I said to myself, what would a 1940s housewife wear if she were housebound in a global pandemic? And I answered myself, she would break out her maternity wear. Yes, believe it or not, this dress was made from a 1944 maternity pattern. And I made it when I was pregnant, and I wore it. This was 3 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter. It expands quite a bit at the waist, as you can see. But I have it tied for my current figure. It's very comfortable. It's really just a house dress, and I love it. You can see me wearing it here, pregnant. I like it the way it looks better when I'm my normal size. I have since added shoulder pads. Actually, these are just shoved in there right now. They're not even tacked in place. In 2017, I was not about that shoulder pad life, but I have come to accept that they are kind of essential to the silhouette. I also had to adjust the neckline a little bit, which this is just pinned in place, and I'm going to need to fix that because it was gapping and sort of doing a weird pigeon-breasted thing, and we're going for 1940s, not 1900. So I'll be honest, I am very tired today, and I've gotten almost nothing done because I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a very energetic 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old running around. I have gotten not very far on my challenge today. What I have done is started to lay out the teal and the brown fabrics to cut out my next 2 outfit pieces. The fabric had previously been washed and dried, but had been stored for a very long time in a Ziploc bag and had lots and lots of wrinkles and creases from that. So I ended up throwing both fabrics in the dryer, dry, with a load of clothes that I had just washed that were wet. So the steam of the wet clothes that were drying steamed out the wrinkles pretty well, actually, from my fabric. So now I've got it laid out on the table, and I just need to cut out the pieces. I ended up doing the pants and the jacket from the brown fabric. One of the areas where I really excel is in cutting out patterns. I've gotten really good over the years at getting a garment cut out of not quite enough fabric, and I really enjoy that process. There's something so satisfying about getting all the pieces to fit when they really don't want to. And in this instant, it was crucial that I pinned down all of the pieces before starting to cut. Now here we encounter a problem. This piece needs to be cut on the fold, but there isn't enough vertical room to fit it and those other 2 long pieces on that side of the fabric. And I still needed to get a waistband somehow. You'll see how I solved that shortly. I ended up folding back a single layer of the very end of the fabric to get the collar on the fold, and I used the rest of the width for the waistband, which I cut later off camera. It came out narrower than the pattern calls for, but I can compensate when I put it together with a facing on the inside. And again, pockets are a must. It has been a very long day, and my curls are, you know what, they're still going. I'm impressed, especially since there's no setting lotion at all. My initial wet set was just wet hair. So, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. It's time to go pin it up again and go to sleep. Welcome back! It is day 3, and as you can probably tell, I am continuing to embrace the 40s aesthetic because A, why not? And B, I was going through my closet of dresses and found that I can wear a different 1940s dress every day. And if I can, I'm going to, because why not? For today's look, we have another 1940s maternity dress. The cardigan is just because it got chilly. So this dress has a belt, but instead of gathers at the front, it does these pleats, which you can change the depth of the pleat to determine how much fabric is taken in. And when I was pregnant, it was pretty much out to here. I'll show pictures. There's supposed to be hooks. I made the little fabric eyes, but I never actually attached the hooks. So I just tuck it and tie it, and that's fine. So yeah, you will see me in lots of 40s dresses in this video, just because it's fun. Now, I had roughly 6 inches less yardage of the teal fabric than I had of the brown, so I knew there was no way I would get another jacket out of it if I also wanted pants, which I did. But there was certainly enough room to lay out a skirt alongside the pieces for the pants. One cool thing about A-line skirts is that you can usually line up the diagonal edges of the panel pieces alongside each other with one inverted, and they'll both be correctly on the grain, but then you only have to cut that line once. I did have to offset mine somewhat because I didn't have enough fabric width to work with, but I had plenty of length, so this wasn't a problem. And I should mention that this method only works with solid colors or non-directional prints. And once again, pockets. 2 sets this time, one for the skirt and one for the pants. I also cut out the blouse that will go with the plaid skirt and jacket for my slippery gold charmeuse. I probably should have ironed the fabric first, but I just didn't bother. I usually do iron my fabric before cutting, and I also normally iron my pattern pieces. But at this point I was just kind of done with cutting pieces out, and I didn't want to prolong it any further. Okay, I now have 2 jackets, 2 skirts, 2 pairs of pants, and 1 blouse cut out. I will have 2 suits, a jacket and skirt from the plaid, a jacket and pants from the brown, and then a spare skirt and a spare pair of pants from the teal. I'm slightly concerned that this old gold color is going to look really hideous against my skin tone. We'll see. I'm hoping it's not terrible. It looks really nice with the gold in the plaid, so here's hoping. I also have 2 blouses of a paler teal color rayon lightweight fabric that will go really nicely with the skirt and the pants of the teal. Those are both already cut out from years ago and partly sewn together, but neither of them are finished. The teal blouses are not the same pattern. Oh, you may have also noticed that I was cutting pockets for the brown and the teal pants. This pattern doesn't call for pockets, but I'm adding them. I took a copy of the pocket pattern piece from this pattern, another 1940s maternity pattern, which I have yet to use, but it has a good pocket piece. And I used that, but modified it slightly. For the plaid skirt, I just used it as is, and I'll set those pockets into the side seams. But for the brown trousers and the teal trousers, I wanted to try this, and I don't have the pattern envelope for this one, but I wanted to try that more decorative pocket on this skirt, and I'm going to do the same with the teal skirt. So I modified this pattern piece, and I don't know where to put them now, but you'll see. So that's where I'm at now. All done cutting out except for the lining, which, oh, I hate cutting. But these are going to be the linings. These are the closest colors I could find to each of these from the lining that I have in my stash. I'm trying to use all stash fabrics for this, so wish me luck. Welcome back again. It is day 4 of my 40s wardrobe challenge. I decided to go a little more glam today. Sort of a what would Peggy Carter wear to Hollywood look. Big fluffy curls are quite fun. They were really getting in my way, so I went with an elegant chignon today. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but I like it. It works. My dress is one I made from a vintage reprint pattern. I really like it. It's cute. It's comfy. I think I may have overdone the shoulder pads. I just took shoulder pads out of a different vintage outfit that I bought, and I think they're a little thick for this particular dress, but it needed something. I will replace these with a different shoulder enhancing method. Oh, and the shoes. The shoes are fantastic. So today I'm actually going to begin sewing. I'm almost done cutting things out. I still need to cut out the lining for both of the jackets, but I'm ready to sew and start putting things together. I'm really sick of cutting out. The plaid fabric frays very easily, so the first thing I did was serge all the edges of the skirt panels. Since it won't be lined, the seam allowances need to be finished in some way, and this is the quickest and easiest. And yes, I did start with a skirt because it's the simplest garment in the entire pattern envelope. But like I said, after so much cutting out, I was really ready to get something sewn together. Fortunately, A-line skirts go together really quickly. Not quite this quickly, but it does feel pretty fast compared to some of the more complex garments I like to make. Lots of nice, long, straight seams. I was very pleased with my pattern matching on the front. That was on the first try. I cut a placket from a scrap of fabric because I hate sewing zippers. I also wasn't sure how a zipper at the side seam would work with the pockets I was putting in, so I got around this problem by doing a placket instead. It did make figuring out the pocket on the left side a little more complicated, but in the end, it wasn't too hard. Hair held up pretty well today, actually. Well, I have a skirt almost done. Just needs a hem and some fastenings. And, yeah, so we'll see how tomorrow goes. Maybe I'll get a blouse. And then I'll have an outfit. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, it is day 5, and my hair is definitely starting to look a little greasy. It's also really staticky for some reason. I think the air is just really dry. But, yeah, so I went with some victory rolls, just to get it out of my face. I'm going to leave it down in the back for now. I might get sick of it later and just put it up to get it out of my way. But for now, it's working. My outfit for the day is another vintage reproduction pattern. This one I made in wool a few years ago. It's a nice spring and fall dress. A lightweight wool, but a little bit warm. My earrings are Dames a la Mode, and my shoes are American Duchess. I don't know if you can see them or not. Time to sew the blouse. After marking and pinning all of the darts and sewing the first one, I realized that I needed to change my needle to a sharp for the delicate charmeuse so it wouldn't keep pulling threads. Fortunately, I was able to smooth out the snags that I got in the first dart. I hate sewing darts, by the way. I love the way they look, but I hate doing them, especially when I'm using the slippery fabric like charmeuse. And there are 12 of them in this pattern. Yikes. Quick visit from my sewing supervisor. She always keeps me on task. With all of the darts sewn, I could finally begin construction. It went together really easily, actually. I was nervous about working with such a notoriously slippery fabric, but it worked out well. This may be the last look I get out of the original wet set, but I'm really liking it. I went for a more formal updo today. It is, after all, a Tuesday, I think. Actually, in this case, it's all about the dress. This is another vintage reprint pattern. I really love it, and I want to make it in more colors and styles. I did a fun thing, because I wanted the insert to be a contrast, but not so big a contrast. So I just used the back side of my crepe back satin for most of the dress, and then the satin right side for the yoke insert. And I really love how it turned out. Shoes by Royal Vintage. Can you even see this? So in order to get the most mileage out of my hair, I plan to cut out the lining of the jacket that will match the skirt and blouse that are almost finished, and then finish those as well. Wish me luck. I nixed most of the footage of me cutting out the lining because it was getting really repetitive. Fun fact, the fabric I ended up using was once the lining of the curtain that you can see behind me in the shots where I'm talking to the camera. I then finished up the construction of the blouse. I only wish it had gone as fast. And settled on the couch with some wine to hand sew in front of the TV for the rest of the evening. It's funny how I look like I'm hyperventilating because of the time lapse. Don't mind my face. I think we were watching Last Week Tonight. Hemming by hand takes a while, but the results are definitely worth it. I hemmed the entire lower edge and the sleeves, and then sewed a button at the top back to close the slit with a handmade thread loop. And the blouse was done. I then put a buttonhole in the waistband of the skirt. For the placket on the skirt, I'll need something to keep the actual placket closed, but still allow me to access the pocket. I'm going to use these vintage hooks and eyes that, honestly, I don't know where I got them, but I can tell they're vintage because look at the price. 25 cents. for 14 of these. That's awesome. Here I am marking the placement for the hooks and eyes on the side placket. I wanted them spaced evenly and fairly close together, so the placket would stay shut smoothly over my hip. And then, of course, it was time to sew all those hooks and eyes. It's odd that I prefer doing this by hand to sewing a zipper in by machine, but there you go. Ta-da! I did it! I got an outfit finished. Well, nearly. The skirt still needs a hem, but it has fastenings all the way up the placket, and the pockets are functional. The blouse is completely done, hem and everything. Button at the back. It was actually not as painful to make as I expected, having chosen a polyester charmeuse many years ago, before I put a self-ban on synthetic fabrics. I thought that it was going to be just really horrible, but it wasn't too bad. The cutting was the worst part. The pattern went together really simply. It was easy to follow. I like the little shoulder just enhancement. Not shoulder pads, but they're just a little, you know, they're just interfaced football-shaped wedges of fabric folded in half and sewn into the sleeve head. And yeah, they're just the perfect amount for a nice soft drapey blouse that you want to give some shoulder structure to. So overall, very happy with the pattern. I love this skirt. Yeah, super happy with it. Very glad I made it with pockets. Gonna continue using that feature. I do wish I had lined the skirt, because speaking of synthetic fabrics, it is definitely not wool, or at least not mostly wool. I can tell real wool when I press it with an iron and I get that lanolin smell. But this is probably acrylic, and obviously the metallic threads in it are not, you know, natural fiber. But, yeah. So, outfit number 1 is done. I'm calling it an outfit even though I didn't finish the jacket. I cut out everything for the jacket, well, not the interfacing. Yeah, so I have an outfit, and not a moment too soon. As you can see, my hair has pretty much completely wilted at this point. I took the back down while I was sewing on the couch because the pins were just driving me crazy and it was late. It's about 1 a.m. now, so I'm ready for bed, but I'm done. I get to wash my hair now. I'm excited. Yeah, I have a new outfit. Yay!